Welcome to Lesson 20 on the law of cosines. The law of cosines is a formula that uses three sides of a triangle and the cosine to find a given angle. This specific formula allows you to do two things. It allows you to calculate the side length of a non-right triangle as long as you know two sides and an included angle. So it's very important that the angle you know is in between the two sides that you know. It will also allow you to calculate any angle of a triangle if you know all three side lengths. So we're going to do two examples today, specifically using the law of cosines. In our first example, we are going to find the side length in a triangle. In this triangle, I know that side A is 4, side C is 7, but I don't know side B. Oh, and I forgot to mention that up above, there are what appears to be three different laws of cosines, but actually, if you start with the first one, you could easily derive the next two by adding or subtracting from both sides and changing your angles accordingly. So there are actually three different laws, but they're all based on the same premise. So in this case, since we are interested in side B, we're going to use the law that starts with b squared. So I have my formula here, b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times c times the cosine of b. So I'm going to simply start by plugging in what I know. I know angle B is 75, I know A is 4, and I know that C is 7. So I will get b squared equals 4 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 4 for A, 7 for C, and the cosine of 75 degrees. And again, I'm going to use my calculator to find out what is the cosine of 75 degrees. So in simplifying, I'll get b squared equals 16 plus 49 minus 56 times the cosine of 75 is 0.2588. And that's as far as we are going to go out in decimal places. So when I simplify, I add 16 and 49, and then I subtract the sum of 56 and 0.2588. I find that b squared will equal 50.506. But remember, I'm really not interested in b squared, I'm interested in b. So in order to solve that, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And when I find the square root of b squared, I get b, and I find that the square root of 50.506 is approximately 7.11. So I have now found that side B is actually 7.11 units. And that's how we can use two sides and an angle to find the third side. Another common problem that is often presented is how to find the measure of an angle. Sometimes I don't have all the information I might need to use the law of sines, so the law of cosines comes in very handy. In this case, I'm going to start with the law that says c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of c. Since I'm really interested in finding the angle measure and not a side, what I'm going to do is simply subtract c squared from both sides, so it ends up over here. And then I'm going to add 2ab times the cosine of c to both sides. That would have ended up over here. But in order to isolate the cosine of angle c, I'm going to divide both sides by 2ab. So once I've done that, I'm going to plug in the sides that I know. I know that a is 8, b is 6, and c is 7. So I'm going to find that the cosine of c equals 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 7 squared, okay, all divided by 2 times a is 8 and b is 6. When I simplify all of this, I will find that I have 51 divided by 96. So this means that the cosine of C equals 51 over 96, which comes out to be approximately 0.53125. Do not make the common error of thinking that this is actually your angle measure. That would be one really, really tiny angle. Angle C is the angle that we are finding. So this means that this is cosine of angle C. In order to find the actual angle, you may recall in an earlier lesson that we will use the inverse of cosine. So we can find C by saying the inverse of the cosine of 0.53125. What this means in practice is that we're going to use the calculator. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the second button followed by the cosine button. So second, cosine, and then in parentheses, we're going to put the 0.53125. And when we do that, we will find that C, which is the measure of angle C, equals 57.9 degrees. And that's how I can find angle C. 57.9 degrees. If I wanted to find angle A or angle B, I would use the law of sines that starts with a squared or b squared. I would rewrite it similarly and plug in what I know.